So I've been CEO for 3 months now, and I think one of my strongest impressions is we have a great core franchise in Barclays. So Barclays has gone through a lot of structural change over the last couple of years, and we want to accelerate that change and have in the last 3 months. We want to simplify Barclays' business to be a transatlantic consumer corporate investment bank. We want to deal with non-core. We need to deal with our conduct issues. We've got great capital strength. It's great to be a British bank. We have an enormously powerful franchise in the UK, and it's a great country from which to be a global financial institution. The organizational structure that we're going to use to execute that business model is very simple. There's Barclays UK, which will be our ring-fence bank in the United Kingdom, focused on retail consumers, our small business lending, and our UK credit card business. Then there's Barclays Corporate and International, which will be our corporate business, our credit card business outside the UK, so Germany and the US primarily, and our investment bank, anchored in New York and London, but also with a presence in Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Mumbai. Both those banks will be strong, profitable, and then feed a revenue diversification into Barclays PLC in the UK that underscores how simple the organization is, how financially strong the organization is, and how our strategy now is very focused on consumer, corporate, and investment banking, essentially on both sides of the Atlantic. Selling down to a non-controlling, deconsolidated position in Barclays Africa is a very, very hard decision to take. Barclays has been in Africa and many countries for well over 100 years. It's a very powerful platform. There's a great management team in Barclays Africa. There are enthusiastic colleagues all across the continent. So this is a very hard decision. But the regulatory framework in terms of funding, in terms of capital, have made having essentially 100% of the financial liabilities versus only owning 62.5% of the equity of Barclays Africa, it's a very difficult position to maintain. So we're going to give ourselves time. Whether it's 2 or 3 years, we'll do it in an appropriate way. We want to be very collaborative with the governments across Africa. This is going to remain an important asset for us, and we want Barclays Africa to come out of this stronger than it is today. To make that core franchise stand out, we need to get our non-core business wound down. We started that non-core business a couple years ago at 110 billion pounds of risk-weighted assets. We have moved that down to 47 billion pounds of risk-weighted assets. Through the recent restructurings that we executed across 9 countries with our wealth management business, we've moved the non-core now back up to 55 billion. The critical thing for us is to get that 55 billion pounds of risk-weighted assets down primarily in 2016. In order to make sure that we accelerate it unfettered, we have pulled back our dividend for 2016 and 2017. It's going to give us the capacity to get that non-core down quickly, which is what our shareholders want, and it will unleash the shareholder value embedded in the core franchise of Barclays. The type of bank that Barclays should be and will be, as I said earlier to employees of Barclays, it's one that engenders the trust of our clients, of our consumers, and of our corporates and the governments that rely on Barclays to help manage their finances. To do that in the proper way, we have to reintroduce the notion of a profession in banking. So re-energizing the bank around values and around the profession of being a banker, holding integrity as your most important card to engender that trust of our clients. That's what Barclays is all about. So I think we've articulated the vision for Barclays to focus on our core franchise. We're going to measure that exercise with a number of simple financial targets. One, we want to have the core return on tangible equity to be the core return on tangible equity for the group as a whole by getting out of non-core. That gives us a return well in excess of our cost of capital. We have a very strong capital position today. We want, at the end of this process, to have 100 to 150 basis points of buffer over the minimum capital ratios required of Barclays. And then we want to have a cost-to-income ratio below 60%. Those are the three principal financial measures. We are going to hold ourselves to a cost target for the core business in 2016. That'll be about 12.8 billion pounds, very consistent with what we've articulated late in 2015. And we also, because that glide path of getting non-core down is so important, we will exit 2017 with our non-core risk-weighted assets at 20 billion pounds or less. We trade at a discount to book value. That's not a position that any management team can accept. We have to articulate and execute the vision of Barclays so our shareholders believe that we are creating value and not taking value away. It is what we have to accomplish in the short and the medium term. So we're going to simplify the bank. We're going to get non-core wound down. We're going to put the conduct issues behind us. We need to get our shareholders to believe that we are generating value, and that's what this management team is going to do.